What's going on, golf addicts? Welcome to the Tour Junkies golf show on the Bettor Sports Network. We are the Tour Junkies. I'm DB. I got Pat Perry with me. How we doing, buddy? We feeling good? It's Honda week.
Honda week. A lot of variants. A lot of carnage going to happen. I'm excited though, DB.
Yeah, we
Not as good
covered
a
it.
field as we've had the last few weeks, but still.
No, pretty weak field. Where's your tattoo? I thought you had you had to scrub that off for the real job.
Yeah, I had to scrub it off. People are gonna have to go back and check out the podcast to go see the actual tattoo I had on because I was down, DB. I was down, man. I needed to make some changes.
Yeah, I mean, you need a
So
little rebirth. It was funny to see it on the show last night. You got to go check it out if you haven't already. But we're going to recap the Genesis. We're going to talk to a couple of interesting things going on in the world of golf. The LIV Golf season starts up this week. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got obviously some things to tell you about the Honda. Make sure you're prepared for that. Pat bringing just the tip and maybe even some first round leader thoughts in segment 2. And then in segment 3 and 4, I'm really excited because we've got a great guest today, and it's a first. Okay, well, I guess it's a first. Yeah, it is a first. It's the first time we've had a guest on that we've not talked to yet. Like we've never had any interaction with this guy other than messaging back and forth on social media. He follows us, we follow him, but we all know who he is. If you've been following golf the last, I don't know, 15, 10, 20 years, you know who Hunter Mahan is. He's going to be joining the podcast. Guys won like 6 or 7 times on the PGA Tour, Ryder Cup, President's Cup guy, total stud golfer. Hunter's going to come on for the last 2 segments. We're going to have some good fun with him. Hopefully he's got a Tiger story or 2 he can share, some Ryder Cup stuff, his thoughts on LIV. It's going to be good. It's going to be a really fun show. I'm excited about it. So, let's get into it. So let's talk the Genesis, Pat. We saw Tiger, and we were wrong. We were wrong about Tiger.
yeah,
On this show, I was wrong about Tiger. On the Moose and Keith show, everybody was kind of wrong about Tiger. Like the books had his make the cut number at like plus 160 all week. Nobody was taking it. We had people in our YouTube comments saying they wouldn't touch him. And he was like, I think he was played at like 4% in DFS. But dang, like Tiger just does what Tiger does, comes out to Riviera, looked fantastic, hit the ball long, hit it well. Putter was a little cold, but I mean, looking good for Augusta. My question to you is, Pat, do you think we see him before Augusta at the Players' Championship?
I think we might see him there. But also there's a chance he could show up at the Arnold Palmer. I mean, that's a tournament he's won a ton of times.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he does show up there. That means he's really in good health. But I feel like he's going to play one more time before the Masters, okay? Because if you think about whether or not it's the Arnold Palmer or whether or not it's the Players' Championship, then there's a big break, at least 3 weeks after that before you play in the Masters. Plenty of time for him to rest up. So I think he's going to play one more time before the Masters. Probably will be the Players. That is the PGA Tour's flagship event, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Arnold Palmer. And I was impressed. Now, he did make the cut on the number, okay? But, a fantastic round. He had the round of the day going on Saturday after he made the cut. So, I mean,
at one point on Saturday, I think he was in the top 20. I know he was in the top 30.
I didn't even think to look at what the top 20 number was going into the weekend or going into the week because I just didn't even think it was a possibility.
Yeah.
Do you think he plays?
I think he might play the Players. I don't think he's going to play Bay Hill because if you play Bay Hill, you got to assume he's. I mean, if you play Bay Hill, you're also going to play you're not going to not play the Players if you're going to play. You're not going to not play the Players. So, yes, Bay Hill's an elevated event next week. Yes, he's won there a bunch, but it's still not the Players, right? And I think he's only going to play one of those if he plays them at all. He may not play them at all. We just may not see him until Augusta. But I tell you what, dude, looking at his numbers, heading into Augusta, the odds have certainly tanked for LT Gray at Augusta National. I've seen some people, floating around the idea on Twitter that Tiger's going to win a major again. I think even people that know Tiger have said Tiger's going to win a major again. If he is, it's going to be the Masters more than likely. It's the one that, an experienced guy like him can take down. He's now 50-1 to win the Masters. I mean, he's the same odds as Tyrrell Hatton, couple of LIV players, Joaquin Niemann, Patrick Reed, 50-1, Adam Scott, 60-1. I mean, this is crazy. Justin Rose, who just won a couple weeks ago, is 65-1. Tiger's 50-1. Now, obviously, the books tend to juice his odds or shorten them up because they know
do.
bet him at whatever price. But I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about. I actually now wish I would have bet him a week ago to win the Masters. But
I can tell you one thing. You mentioned Tyrrell Hatton. I would take him in a head-to-head over Tyrrell Hatton at the Masters because Hatton never seems to play well there anyway. But
I will too.
I don't know. It's definitely happened though where he's playing the Masters. Like that's not a question anymore now after seeing what he did this past weekend.
Other than that, Riv was awesome. Jon Rahm pisses us off again. He's won 3 times already in 2023. He stole the outright Morikawa Century Tournament of Champions hit from Pat week 1. He stole. We had the Max Homa bet last week. He stole that one from us again. Max Homa's, was it his first runner-up in his PGA Tour career, which is wild to think about. But I think we talked about this last week. I said last week, I think Jon Rahm is the best player in the world right now. And I think then it's Scottie Scheffler and then it's Rory. And that's kind of how it worked out at Riv. Jon Rahm is just very hard to beat right now. He's having a season that I don't know that we've seen. We've not seen one close. I mean, Scottie Scheffler obviously had a really strong year last year, winning a bunch of times, winning, back-to-back back-to-back tournaments and such. But I mean, Jon looks dominant right now. He is really scary, and he's really pissing us off because every elevated event, every major, he's going to be the favorite. He's going to be 7-8-1, and it sucks. But this week, we don't have to worry about that. We'll get to that more in just a second. Other things going on in the world of golf, Pat. I mentioned LIV starts up this week, and they are at Mayakoba, El Camaleon Golf Club in Mayakoba. That's a tournament that we're all pretty familiar with. It's been a staple on the PGA Tour for a long time. It was last played in the fall. I want to say September, October of 2022. And no more. No mas, shall I say. Because now it is a LIV staple event, and it's going to kick off their 14-tournament season in Mexico. And the teams have had a bit of a shakeup. There's some new names that have gone over to LIV, announced or finalized this week. None of them really all that great in terms of gets, but it does add some depth, I guess, to the LIV roster. Myself and our friend Joe Idoni at Tour Picks, the host of the Preferred Lines podcast, will be giving you some DFS and betting thoughts for LIV Golf because, listen, if you can bet on it, if you can play DraftKings on it, which you can, then the Tour Junkies are going to cover it. So I don't love LIV. I don't necessarily hate it. But you can bet on it. You can win money on it. Maybe there's an edge to be had there. And we're going to help people do that if they want to. If you hate LIV, then don't listen to that show. That's fine. But it's professional golf, and you can bet on it. So we're going to cover it. But it'll be interesting to see how that looks. Got the CW. It's going to be on the CW this week, Pat. Will you be tuning into the CW? Do you have the CW app downloaded on your phone yet?
I don't. I have to look at that. I don't think I'll be tuning in, though. But I'll follow it. See what happens. You got to think that these LIV folks are ready to get going because there's been a lot of buzz on the PGA Tour this year. Like, I mean, you've had some great events so far, and you had Tiger last week, so they got to be ready to get into the spotlight a little bit because the tour's been doing it so far this year.
It certainly feels like last year towards the end of the year, LIV had a little momentum. Like it felt like they had a little momentum. And now it feels like they have very little momentum. It feels like what you would expect when you have 3 to 4 months where you're not playing golf, you're not putting out any tournaments. It is what it is. But I mean, the signings that they've gotten is, again, they're okay. They're names that you and I know, but they're not names that most of the average Joe watcher of golf is going to really care about or maybe know at all. So it will be interesting to see if they can somehow stir up some momentum. Obviously, it's strategic that they're opening this week. While the PGA Tour has one of the weakest fields it will have all season, sandwiched in between designated events. So I do want to hit one thing before we go to a break. Speaking of LIV, Donald Trump is known to have some ties with LIV Golf. And he just came out, I guess it was yesterday. I don't even know what this is for because I didn't watch it. But throw up the graphic on screen. This is crazy to me. He's standing in front of this backdrop. This backdrop. Oh, I thought we'd be on the side of the screen. I guess not. He's standing in front of this backdrop, Club 45 USA, whatever that is. I don't know. Okay, Club 45 USA. It is the identical graphic of the Ryder Cup, with the exception of his face and the trophy. The same number of stars. The stripes are the same way. The shape of literally everything is exactly the same. I think it's the same damn font. Is Donald Trump trolling the PGA with this? This is ridiculous.
Knowing him, he absolutely is, and that's just, I mean, good Lord.
Egregious.
I need to figure out, but you know what? It drew your attention, and we're trying to figure out what he's talking about. What the heck is going on here?
Well, I guess we'll for another day, we'll have to figure that one out. All right, we got to go to a break. Stay right here. We're going to preview the Honda Classic a little bit. Pat's going to bring you just the tip and some first-round leader thoughts. Then we're going to be joined by 6-time PGA Tour winner, Ryder Cup member, Hunter Mahan. Stay right here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Bettor Sports Network.
Making you money in daily fantasy sports and golf betting. Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network.
Shout out to the NBA for putting on what I thought was a pretty decent, solid NBA All-Star weekend. All-Star Saturday night. Listen, we got to, a lot of you people already knew who Mac McClung was. Me, myself, not really the big Mac McClung guy, but you know what? I saw him in the slam dunk contest. I was impressed. Thought he did a good job. Can't wait to see him again in the slam dunk contest next year. I'm not going to be all hyperbolous and be like, he saved the NBA slam dunk contest. Let's pipe down and calm down a little bit on that one right there. For the most part, that was solid. 3-point shootout, still the best event of the night. You know what I'm saying? Kind of anticlimactic. You know what I'm saying? Damian Lillard did a fantastic job. Shout out to Dame Dollar winning his first NBA 3-point shootout. You know, the rookie game, the Rising Stars Challenge, and the format behind the Rising Stars Challenge with the tournament. Felt that could have been a little bit too much, but it was good and exciting to see the G Leaguers out there. Shout out to Jose Alvarado, Grand Theft Alvarado, for winning the Rising Stars MVP. Thought that was good. Listen, all the events, you know, the skills challenge and all that, solid. NBA All-Star game, not a lot of defense, but we kind of know that. It's an exhibition format. Jason Tatum wins the MVP, breaking the All-Star game scoring record. Really, my main problem, my main takeaway from the weekend was, you sports fans that complain about everything, for Christ's sakes, oh, they don't play no defense. It's an exhibition game with the greatest offensive talent on the face of the earth. Some of the greatest athletes you've ever seen. What do you want the score to be? 98 to 97 in an All-Star game? Man, some of you sports fans complain about everything. Oh, they got to do this, and oh, they got to do that, and why they change this rule, and why they do that. How about you just get your popcorn, get your beverage, you sit down and enjoy the action from some of the greatest athletes that this world has ever seen. Stop complaining about everything. Oh, the All-Star game should be more competitive. Why? We got competition coming up, trying to figure out who's going to win the championship this year. Treat the game for what it is. It's an exhibition between great athletes. They happen to be friends. Nobody wants to tear an ACL. Nobody wants to break their hand. Nobody wants to sprain their ankle. They want to get out there with their friends and families and have a good time and enjoy the experience before they got to go back to work for real. Sometimes you want to play an exhibition, don't you? Or do y'all want to go 100 every single day? Leave the NBA All-Star Weekend alone. It's been here for years. It's going to continue to be here. Some years it's going to be better than others, but that doesn't mean you throw the whole thing away. Once again, it's your boy Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you download the Bettor Sports Network app. For more content like this, check out bettorsports.com.
Now back to Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network.
Listen, from March Madness to the World Series, Bettor Sports Network presents the 2023 Sports Futures Draft, featuring picks and odds, the most exciting sporting events of the year. Join our boy Corey Parson, Nando DeFino, and the Bettor team of producers to find out where the best values are in sports futures. Plus, betting advice, and strategy. Don't miss the Sports Futures Draft, now playing at bettorsports.com and on demand with the BSN app. Welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show on Bettor Sports Network. We're talking the Honda Classic this segment before we have our guest, Hunter Mahan, join us. Stick around for that. Honda, Pat, it's very weird, okay? This is a weird event. I know if you're new to this, if you're new to PGA Tour handicapping, you need to understand something. First of all, the field this week is pretty bad, but that actually opens up the window of opportunity. You smell that, Pat? Smells like opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with that opportunity, the first opportunity is Jon Rahm's not effing playing, right? Hello. Like, there's your first opportunity. Maybe we can get a guy win a golf tournament at longer than 30-1 or 8-1 in Jon Rahm's case. Okay, so there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of variance at this golf tournament. And the best way I can describe it is this. PGA National, the host side of this golf tournament for a long time, par 70, it's a really tough golf course. There's water in play on about 15 holes. There's wind constantly. It's in West Palm Beach, Florida. We're now on the Florida swing side of things on the PGA Tour schedule. You got grainy Bermuda surfaces throughout, tight lies you're chipping off of, rough, firm and fast green situations, bunkers everywhere. A lot of big numbers, a lot of penalty shots, a lot of variance. Okay. Winning score is usually, around like the 10 under range. What it is it's like a US Open, but with take out the top 50 players in the world playing in it. So now you got the US, you got really crappy golfers relatively to US Opens playing on a US Open course. So you try to figure that one out, right? So this is long shot season, and we've had some success at this event. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've hit the winner at this event, and all 3 have been at 150-1. So you can see some bombs win here. Sepp Straka won here. Matt Jones, Sung Jae Im, he was a shorter, kind of the last shorter number that we've seen hit here in 2020 at 35-1. He's the odds-on favorite this week. Keith Mitchell, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Adam Scott have won here. But, I mean, I'm telling you, this field is so bad. It's not going to be one of those guys. We're going to get a long shot. I'm feeling it in my bones this week, Pat. Any other thoughts on PGA National and the Honda Classic in terms of handicapping?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's so variable here, but I think that makes it fun, and maybe that's a good reason that we've done well in the past. Is it allows you to maybe go with your gut a little bit more on some players, and you got to trust your gut. And when we say that, it's just not like picking guys out of thin air. There are things that you see. You may see guys that you've been watching lately that have made a lot of birdies or something, or they just look good. They look in control. They're not getting themselves into too much trouble. They're just not winning golf tournaments. There's a lot of different things you can look at this week. So I think it's going to be a fun week. I do think we're getting a longer shot. I just don't think the favorites are going to win this week, and that's what you get at the Honda.
14 of the last 14 winners have played in at least one Honda Classic before. 13 of the last 14 had made a cut at the Honda Classic. What's also crazy is I want to say like 7 or like the last 7 or the last 10 winners within 3 years of winning also had a miscut. So like you can kind of throw course history a little bit out of the window in terms of just, maybe not for the winner if these trends are going to continue, but for somebody who could play well, it's just one of those courses with so much variance. So get uncomfortable in your selections. Do not play the chalk, right? If you're playing DFS, I think last year, 3 out of the top 10 highest owned players did not finish in the top 15 in DraftKings point scoring. Don't be afraid to fade the chalk this week. Don't be afraid to feel a little queasy about your top 20 slips or your outright bets or whatever it may be. It's just going to be one of those weeks. Iron play and around the green play, probably the 2 most important stats to look at, because if you miss these greens, you could be in the water. You could be taking drops.
Yes.
If not, you're chipping off of tight lies and out of some rough bunkers. So you're going to need to be able to get up and down. Agree?
Totally agree. Totally agree.
All right, so talk to us a little bit, Pat. One of our favorite segments for those of you getting into this, diving into this for the first time, or maybe you're just kind of feeling out PGA handicapping, whatever it may be. We've been trying to do this all year so far. We'll keep it rolling until we run out of material. We're trying to give you something we like to call just the tip. Okay, just a little nugget. of game theory, strategy, whatever it is that you need, betting, DFS, whatever, to help you make better decisions. And Pat's bringing it to you today.
Yeah, just little nuggets, DB. That's a good way to put it. And you know what? We're kind of running out of nuggets. All right. I got my whole 10-pack of nuggets over here, and I'm running out of them because, we've done like 6 or 7 of these now. So, but we're going to have to, I don't know what we're going to have to do, DB, but it's hard getting the nuggets. But I got a good one for you today. And DB, we're
Okay.
going to talk a little bit about responsibility. Okay. And finding your thing. DB, finding your thing, okay?
Wow.
And there's a few things that you've got to do. Actually, here's what you got to do to find your thing, all right? You're never going to know what you're good at, right, DB, if you're not tracking your results. You're not tracking your results. That's what you got to do with golf betting. You've got to track your results. I don't care if you're doing outrights, you're doing top 20s, you're doing head-to-heads or whatever you're doing. And this is something you and I have we slacked off at the beginning when we just got into it, that you really got to get into doing if you want to find out what you're good at, and you got to find your thing. All right. Yeah. So if you I don't care if you write it down, you're an older person like me, you like to hand write down things, or you got you a nice fancy Excel sheet. I don't care. You need to track what you're doing. It's hard to find what you're good at when it comes to golf betting if you're not tracking things and figuring out, okay, am I hitting my top 20s more than I'm hitting the outrights? Yeah, you probably are. Am I good with the head-to-heads? Do I need to scratch one way I'm doing thing and maybe put more units on the head-to-heads, more units on the top 20s, those kind of things? So you really got to, you're just not going to know what you're good at if you're not tracking any of these things. So that's the little nugget today, DB. Track, all right? Be smart about your betting, okay? Know what you're good at, what you're bad at. And then, here's what happens. You start to look at things over time, surprise yourself a little bit, maybe find out that you're fantastic at top 20s. So you know what? You can double your units there because you've made a little money there. And maybe you take, maybe take out some of the units that you're using on your outright or your head-to-head. So there you go, DB. That's the little tip today. I think we got to track. We got to be organized with this betting thing.
I like it. And if you've been listening to the Bettor Sports Network for a while, you probably have heard that before, because if you're betting, you need to track what you're betting on for sure. I think it should even go as granular as possibly tracking the players that you're betting, right? Do I have a weakness for betting freaking Patrick Rogers to win a golf tournament? You like, right? You know what? It's kind of one of those things I want to know, but I kind of don't want to know how much I've spent betting on Patrick Rogers in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
I kind of would like to know that, honestly. So yeah,
I don't know. That's kind of like, knowing how many times, during the year I went to the liquor store and how much that count, that added up to, like, it's going to be a number I don't really want to know, or something like that. Or, how many times, I don't know. I got Dairy Queen or something. I don't know.
Give me the volume of tequila I drank in 2022. Yeah, that probably wouldn't be. It'd be interesting to know, but probably not something you want to know. But I think you're right. You got to track that stuff. For me personally, and this is a segue here. This is professional, okay? I realized through tracking that, and other things, that first round leader bets were not for me. They just were not. And I did them for a while and I hit a couple, but for the most part, no. And so I kind of stopped, and I kind of stopped cold turkey. Now, have I on occasion, because I just had a hankering, or I won the week before or whatever, like I kind of maybe irresponsibly splashed a few nuggets into the first round leader markets? Yeah, that's okay. And then I got right back to normal. But I learned that through tracking. Speaking of first round leader bets, though, Pat, you got a couple for us this week for the Honda?
I got a few, but you know what? You could add that to the tracking sheet that the irresponsible category. You could just have a whole irresponsible category. If you like to make some irresponsible bets, put your first round leaders in there. And hey, here's how I did in the irresponsible category for 2023. And so here's a few that we're going to put in that category, because there is no real advantage this week when it comes to first round leaders. We don't have a whole weather wave that we can look at, things like that. Now, typically I do like to get some of the morning guys when it is, there's no weather advantage, because that's when the course is a little bit softer. You got some dew out there on the greens, things are holding a little bit better. So I got a few. I'm going to start with the two Bens. Okay, it's about the Bens, DB. Ben On, Ben Griffin. Both those guys I like. Ben On is 60-1 first round leader. Ben Griffin is 65-1. We'll start with Ben On. He is number 3 in this field in birdie or better percentage. Okay, so that means we know he can score. If he just doesn't make a whole lot of big numbers, he can get up there at the first part of that at the front of the leaderboard on Thursday. He's at 60-1. Ben Griffin is at 65-1. He's number 1 in this field in birdie or better percentage. So I like those two guys. And then a couple longer shots. Aaron Rye, who I hit earlier this year, is we know he can score on day 1. We don't know what that rest of the days he's going to do, but 75-1 for Aaron Rye. And then here's a longer shot. Dylan Fratelli at 90-1. There's just something about Fratelli. He always just pops up out of nowhere. I feel like this is a good little fit for him. He's long off the tee. He can give himself some scoring opportunities. He's 13th in the field in birdie or better percentage. So there you go. There's 4 names.
Really good around the green too, and I like that for your two Bens as well. That's, as I said, that's key. You got to hit your irons well. You got to be good around the green. Ben On, I think, has gained more strokes at PGA National over the last 5 years than any other player in this field. I think he's a local to West Palm Beach area. Ben Griffin, not a resident here, but a Sea Island Mafia member in southeast Georgia on the coast. Loves him some Bermuda. I like all 3 of those. I think those are all 3 solid numbers, and I like that they're a little bit longer because chances are you're going to have to split the first round leader if there's a tie and you got dead heat rules. So there you go. That's just the tip. That's your first round leader. Stay right here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show. We're coming right back with 6-time PGA Tour winner Hunter Mahan on the Bettor Sports Network.
Tee off with the Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network. Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Bettor Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders. Unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network. Now back to Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Bettor Sports Network. We're having a good show. We're talking to Honda, and now we're going to bring in a very special guest for this segment. It's our internet friend. Now we're going to get to talk in real life. But he's 6-time PGA Tour winner, Ryder Cup member, President's Cup member, Hunter Mahan joins the show. What's up, Hunter? Thanks for coming on.
No problem. I'm very excited to be here.
All right. Listen, you played on tour for a long time, dude. What's the deal with Honda Classic Week? What's the deal with PGA National? Like, why is it just so ridiculous and highly variable and all? Like, what's up? And what is your level of affection with Honda?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the course. I mean, it's extremely challenging. The wind, it always feels like it's always like kind of, it's jumping around all over the place. It comes across on a lot of holes, which is always uncomfortable. And you're kind of always trying to hold it in the wind. It's just a bear. Just when you look at it and you're kind of going through your head, there's just not a lot of birdie holes. I mean, it's just, that if you get 15, 16 birdie putts, that's all you can really ask for. And you can't, and the minute you get a little bit too aggressive, all of a sudden you're in a position where you're kind of staring at water from an uncomfortable chip, or you've got a doubles just come into play so fast, and feeling like you have to catch up on that golf course is no fun.
Yeah. I mean, so I said, you obviously won a lot on the PGA Tour. You played nearly 500 events on tour. You were as high as 4th in the world. And here's my question. You know a little bit about what me and Pat do on a regular basis. We're idiots. We're trying to handicap golf. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love asking pros this. If you were handicapping golf, what would be some things you would look at, not look at? What do you hear people like us say or look at that you think that's probably not it, probably not helping you, or you should probably lean more into this? What's some of that stuff? Because obviously we talk about course history, form, stats, models, all that stuff. But as a former player at a really high level, what would you say?
Well, history is always a good one. I mean, once you get a little bit of data on some of the players, their history can bring you a lot of success moving forward, right? Like, perfect example was sort of like Jon Rahm's had a lot of success at San Diego, and then the majors there, and he wins it, right? It was like the least surprising thing that you've ever seen. Tiger's done the same thing, right? All of a sudden, Tiger wins the same tournament like 6 or 7 times. It's he likes it, or he has a very good understanding of how to play the golf course. It's the challenging part, right, is putting. Like, putting is always important, right? Everyone, like, guy putted great that week, but putting is so cyclical that it's hard to figure out when that comes and goes, right? It always seems like better ball strikers are always going to continue to be up there on the leaderboard every single week, like Will Zalatoris and Rory and like Cameron Young. They just stripe it all day, every day, and that's why they're always in sort of contention, right? But sometimes they putt well, and sometimes they make those putts and that you need to make to kind of win an event. But I don't know. It's a little bit, you never really know. Like Sergio winning Augusta, you would have never seen that. He's always sort of hated that golf course and publicly disliked it and everything about it. And that he wins his first major, you thought for sure he'd win at a British Open or something like that. Something that's a little bit more suits his eye. So golf's very challenging, but the best thing you do is just kind of follow the ball strikers and guys who are consistently hitting it well, and you can kind of follow them to sort of success.
What do you think? All right. So if we're talking course history, and DB he knew I was probably going to get into course history more because I love course history. I think, but there's a lot of different things about course history. They mean different things to different people. For me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, course history is if you get on a course, it's just the sight lines, the things that you see on that course. So it's really more like a course fit thing than actually that course, like where it is, or that course in general. So do you think it is a sight thing? Is that what makes, course history good, or is it something else? When you're like, how would you define course history?
There's a weird, I think you enjoy being there. So even if you're playing bad, if you get to a place that you enjoy playing, or you do like to see the lines, you can kind of snap out of a funk, and all of a sudden you just feel better, right? You're excited to play. And a lot of that has to do with just how you see it. Sometimes it's simplicity of just, I know where I'm going to hit it on the shot. And there's a comfort in being able to hit the same thing kind of over and over again on a golf course. I know, but it's crazy. Like, I know Tiger never really liked Bay Hill. He didn't think that was a great golf course, but he won it every freaking year, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So you're able to kind of plot your way around a golf course if you sort of know what you're doing. But like, I think it's not something as much as you can explain, but you can just get to a place and a fader, right? Like, there's every Nicklaus course is kind of left to right. And like, so when you see like Jon Rahm winning in LA last week, I mean, every hole is just tailor-made for this little fade that he loves to hit, and he can do it every day. And I think kind of Max Homa, kind of the same thing. They're just setting up there, and it completely suits their eye to visually understand this is kind of what I need to hit into the shot. And so they're not really overthinking very much. There's not a whole lot of figuring out what am I going to do on this hole, because I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of be able to just grip it and rip it, and I have comfort on that style of golf course.
Yeah. So, all right, we got LIV Golf starting this week. All right. So we got some time with you, I got to ask you about LIV Golf. What do you think about where they are right now? It feels like there's a little bit of momentum shift back to the PGA Tour, especially after Tiger comes in and plays last week. You get to see Rory and JT. I mean, it was a just fantastic theater. And now we got LIV that's been on the sidelines for a little bit. They're coming back into the spotlight a little bit this week. So kind of what's your assessment of where LIV is right now? And then, maybe just sort of in general, like how you feel about it.
It's been a wave of I think for the last year, I was like, I don't think this thing's going to take off. And then all of a sudden they started getting some big names and some big players. And they had a kind of, ebbs and flows all throughout the year. They kind of ended with a bang getting Cam Smith, who was, I think, 1 or 2 in the world at the time. I mean, that's just an incredible get. But I think this layoff has kind of hurt. I've been I've kind of forgot about them for a little bit, even though they're there and they're coming up, but I'm like, I don't know when they're playing. I heard like last week they're coming, the first event's coming up. They got their team set. I just saw that, Dustin Johnson is no longer with Adidas. It's like the league is evolving in a different way. The team aspect is important. I mean, and that's everything for them. If they can't get the team identities off the ground, it's just going to be this lost kind of thing, and it's going to truly be what the PGA Tour said, which is just an exhibition, and it's not going to have that incentive or that interesting appeal to everybody if they can't figure out how to showcase their teams and make that important in the game of golf and show that they are something different. So it's to me, it's lost a little bit of momentum, and they need to come back really strong this kind of coming week and have a really strong showcase. But if the PGA Tour has a great, like you said, they've crushed it for the first few weeks, and incredible theater, incredible players. Max Homa's become a star, I think, on tour. People absolutely love his passion and his grit. He's a guy that I think everyone can sort of relate to, and they just feel like this guy just did it through hard work and grit, and people love that.
Yeah. Do you do you do anything with the PGA Tour now, Hunter? Are you involved in pro golf at any level?
No, I don't, maybe something in the future in a little bit, not with the tour exclusively, but I'm a partner of some sort, but nothing right now. I'm just sort of a spectator now.
So does the team golf thing, obviously you played on a bunch of Ryder Cups, President's Cups, you were a star in those. Does that, when you see the team golf elements of LIV, if you separate whatever else you want to say about LIV Golf, does that intrigue you? Do you think that maybe that's something that the PGA Tour should have leaned into a little bit more at an earlier stage, or how does that get you as somebody who played a lot of team golf?
Oh, I love the team aspect, playing on the Ryder Cups and President's Cup teams. It was incredible to be around such great players in such a relaxed atmosphere. Everyone did feel like they let their guard down, and they completely leaned into the team aspect and leaning on each other and talking to each other and having one common goal that week was always so much fun. Some of the teams there are great. There's a South American Chile kind of style team, a Spanish team. And I see, you can kind of see what they're doing, trying to package these teams as an entity, as their own little league in a way. But I don't know. I'm just not quite buying it today. I don't know how fans are going to respond to that. I think there's a decent betting outlook. You can bet on the teams per se, and who might win that week. That adds something to it. Some of the teams don't really, you're kind of curious about how that's going to work. I think they need to start pairing the teams together the first couple of days so people can identify with who they are and kind of their names and stuff. But I don't know if that's a PGA Tour model. I don't see that kind of working for them. I thought I could see that in some sort of betting landscape or some sort of Team Ping, Team RBC, Team Titleist. You can have a bigger team like that and create these little avenues of, I'm going to put four 4 team Titleist guys in this week, 4 team Ping guys, or whoever, and see who wins at the end. I think there's some sort of like, Formula One aspect to that you can have where everyone's competing against one another, but there is a kind of a, manufacturer's award at the end, right? Where Ping had the most money earned for their team or whatever. They can do all kinds of different things. I just don't see the LIV thing doesn't excite me today, but it could tomorrow. It's hard to tell right now.
That's interesting. I've actually, of all the conversations we've had with LIV, I've never heard anyone say, and it gets all the comparison that the team side kind of gets this comparison to F1, but I've never heard anyone talk about it like from an equipment standpoint. That could be interesting maybe if you had the Ping team and the Titleist team and the Callaway team and the TaylorMade team, like you have the different cars that
Right.
represent on F1. That's interesting. I never thought about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
What about?
So,
go ahead,
I wanted to ask about the, you talk about, Formula One, now we've got the Full Swing, Netflix series that's out. It was made by the guys that did the Formula One series on Netflix. So what are your thoughts on that right now? It's kind of the big thing. It just came out last week. And then I got to know, like, Joel Damon is one of the stars of the Netflix series. Who was maybe the Joel Damon of your day when you were really just, out on tour and just winning events and all that kind of stuff?
Well, the Full Swing was excellent. It was really well done. I'm glad. I know that was a lot of work for a lot of people for a long time, and it ended up great, and it was really interesting. Joel Damon, he's maybe like Tim Herron. Tim Herron was on tour. I think he's still playing, and said he was the funniest, smartest guy, and just so interesting and totally fun to be around. There is like a John Daly aspect to Joel, someone who's completely understanding who he is, and not nearly as talented as John Daly, but Joel's grinding it out and making the most of his opportunities and kind of squeeze every ounce of juice in that orange, which is sort of the fun and the interesting part of the PGA Tour, is those guys who year in and year out go get after it to make a living. So it's very cool to see that, to see him highlighted like that. But Daly was another level of interest from fans, but with someone with so freaking talented that it was just incredible. I played with him in Charlotte years ago, but when he's still on tour playing quite a bit, and it's his hands, they're very Tiger-ish in terms of like feel and ability and the hit shots and the see, and it's very artistic to watch him play. It was really a joy.
See, that's interesting because Daly, you just think of power, right? You just think of overpowering, but you called him an artist, and it makes sense to me a little bit. Like when you see kind of how he's done over time. That's awesome. I love that. So I guess before we get you out of here, Hunter, we gotta let you go. I know you gotta go do your thing. What about you? Like in terms of golf, like are you playing golf seriously? You want to get back at it? You gonna do do you ever look ahead at the Champions Tour? I know it's a long way for you, like you're our age, but what's golf like for you personally?
Yeah, I think it's a unfinished book, I guess. I don't I've had some good time off from it, and to where I could I've thought about getting back into it a little bit with some friends around here and start getting it. Like there's nothing like hitting a great shot, right? A pure shot on the range or on the golf course. It's a most beautiful feeling. So I definitely want to start practicing again and playing a little bit, but I haven't really done much in a long time. Golf does give you that opportunity to play for a really, really long time. And I'd never say no to anything, in terms of the future, because I just have no idea what's going to happen. But it's definitely a possibility. And, by the time, in 10 years, my youngest will be basically 13, and I'll have 1 or 2 kids out of the house. So that does leave an opportunity for something like that. But I never say never. And but I do look forward to playing for pure enjoyment, and then we'll see where it kind of goes from there.
Well, sounds good, dude. We'd love to see you back out there in whatever capacity. We appreciate you taking some time to come on the Tour Junkies show here on the Bettor Sports Network. Follow Hunter on Instagram and Twitter at Hunter Mahan. And listen, dude, we're going to get you on the podcast soon, okay?
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Do it.
Thanks,
Hunter Mahan, everybody. Stay right here. We're going to wrap it up with Honda Classic. Some final thoughts, maybe a DraftKings cash lineup. So stay right here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Bettor Sports Network.
Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network. Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr. And I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it. A guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafolo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave. Because, like, accuracy to me is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I'm hunched over. And I just, like, literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu. And Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, oh, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? Like, what was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterwards?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
You know, he wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories. So.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Bettor Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shador?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him, so I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft, so he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this, he hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle, so maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Bettor Sports Network. Now back to Tour Junkies on Bettor Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Bettor Sports Network. Wrapping it up this hour. Just had Hunter Mahan on. If you missed that, you got to make sure you get it. Pat, I guess I'm just going to talk about Hunter for a second. I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have any idea his total career earnings? Did you cheat? Don't.
No, I haven't even looked at that. Okay. I'm going to say 20 million.
30 million on the course.
That's on the course because he's had a huge deal off the course. Because wasn't he one of the first like Under Armour athletes or that
golfers.
Really got? Yeah,
I think he was. And I mean, to think about doing 30 mil like now isn't that hard to think about, especially when we see these elevated purses. And I mean, I think Jon Rahm's already won.
He's almost at 10 already this year.
But 30 million in the early 2000s, like in the 2010s, was not easy to do. Like he was a really damn good golfer. Yeah, just a good dude. I mean, played on a bunch of Ryder Cups. I think 3 or 4 Ryder Cups, Ryder Cup teams, if I remember. Let's see, 2008, 2010, 2014 Ryder Cup team, President's Cup in 07, 09, 11, and 13.
He's played more than I thought, and he's had some big moments in a Ryder Cup. One that didn't go quite so well. and
Yeah.
it's and I'm sure he would talk about it. It was a pivotal moment in a Ryder Cup, but that happens. I mean, that's sports, right? And
Yeah.
so we'll have to get him on the show and ask. I'm sure he'll talk about it because it was big thing for him. But he's got plenty of other great moments. With and I've always pulled for him. I think he's a great dude and really liked. He was an exciting player on tour, really good player. So that was pretty cool to be able to talk to him. Like you said, he's kind of an internet friend,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's blossoming.
It's blossoming. Any guesses on who he lost the tour championship to? And I think it was in a playoff.
The tour championship to in a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Now they started the tour championship in this is not FedEx, right? This would have been before that. So
Yes, correct. It was by Coca-Cola.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say, oh my gosh, Mickelson.
Good guess. Bill Haas.
That was going to be my first guess, but I thought Bill Haas was like the FedEx Cup days.
God, Bill Haas. Ugh, God. Yeah, dude.
What tournaments did Hunter win?
He won
that are still around today.
He won the Travelers.
Like he's that old.
He won the WGC Bridgestone, which was at
Firestone or whatever.
He won the Waste Management. He won the Shell Houston Open. He won the WGC Match Play. And then he won the Barclays, which was the playoff. He won that twice. That was a playoff event, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember where those were, but
there's up in New York, I think.
He had 6 wins, 7 runner-ups,
Boston, maybe,
and 57 top 10s. Pretty good for old Hunter Mahan. I should have known he was going to say Lumpy as the Joel Damon of his day. Lumpy's freaking hilarious. Tim Herron. He's still cracking jokes and making people laugh somewhere on a golf course in Minnesota at somewhere.
I'm glad he mentioned Daly though, because I think that's something like if you grew up a fan of golf and watching Daly a lot, he's known for power. Like, if you were at a golf tournament, like when he came to the Masters back in his heyday, you were just like, everybody was like, oh, I mean, every time he hit a shot off the tee, boom. I mean, just hitting it so far. But the guy has some of the best touch around the greens of anybody I've ever seen. He has fantastic hands. And I bet you most players like Hunter would say, him bombing it off the tee was not the thing that you wanted to watch with John Daly. It was how good he was around the greens, his creativity. Like Hunter said, an artist.
Yeah. Also glad to see another pro checking the box for course history, right? We've talked to a lot of pros in the last 8 years of doing this. And it used to be a hot button thing in the Twitter streets of the golf world. I think it's kind of died down. I think maybe we've had a small part to play in people shutting up about this. But back in the day, in the Twitter DFS golf streets, there used to be this hotly debated topic, and that was, is course history real? Like, people would question about, is it real? And me and Pat have always been on the side of course it's real. How predictive it is can vary when it comes to handicapping, and it depends on the golf course. But yes, it's real. And literally for years, we spent, every time we interviewed a tour pro, we would ask that question, like, tell us, do you think course history is a real thing? And can it be an indicator for how well somebody might do this week? And every single tour pro, without exception, we've probably interviewed 40 or 50 of them over the years, has always said yes, like to some extent.
So it has to be a thing. It has to be something. Now, there's others that'll say, well, the data doesn't line up to it and whatever. Okay, I don't care. And that's why I asked the question about, what is it about course history? And it can mean a lot of different things to different people. It's, the course fit, how they typically play anyway. But in general, it does come down to the fact, like Hunter said, they just get out there and they like where they are. They're happy. That helps. Being happy on the golf course, it's a thing. It helps. Things look good to you off the tee. It helps you gain confidence. That's hard to measure. Okay, it's hard to find a stat for that, and that's why golf is so cool and so fun to bet. It's just it's so variable, and just you stepping up on the first tee, you may have had some bad Cheerios, and it's going to be a terrible day. Or you get on the course that you
Cheerios? What? Did someone pee in your Cheerio? Overcook your Cheerio? What? Are they stale in the clubhouse?
But or you step up there and you're just feeling great. You've been on that course several times. It's one you've scored on before. I mean, I'm not talking about just pros. I'm talking about anybody that actually plays golf. It happens. So
I mean, nothing in golf, I don't care if it's the greatest data point ever, is going to be 100% accurate, predictive all the time. It's the most variable sport in the world. It's hard as crap to predict. At bare minimum, bare minimum, okay? If you've played well on a course before, we also know this. Not only is it the most variable sport in the world, it's the most mental. It is. You have to be in the right mental mindset to play golf. Every little thing going on in your head, okay, has to be right at the top level, at the PGA Tour level. I just watched this episode on the Netflix documentary. Matt Fitzpatrick goes and wins his first ever PGA Tour event, happens to be a U.S. Open in Boston. Now, this dude is from freaking wherever Shire, England. I don't even know. It may not even have a Shire at the end of it, but I feel like most places in England have a Shire at the end of it. He's from somewhere Shire, England. And what's he got going to do winning an event in Boston? Well, 9 years previous, he won the U.S. Amateur on the same golf course. And he talked about it in the documentary. If you tell me that dude ain't stepping up there going like, you know what? I just feel good. I just have good vibes. The atmosphere. I remember hitting this shot on this hole, so I know it can be done. I remember how this putt might have moved. Now, sure, the course has probably changed over 9 years, but I remember the feelings, and I remember, and I have confidence. I know that this is a place that I can play well. Even my 9 year ago, 18-year-old self. Now, fast forward, I can do this, right? So at bare minimum, the mental advantage that somebody has when they're stepping onto a course that they've had success on and they're familiar with is there. And so
absolutely.
That's why we talk about it every single week. But again, it is dynamic. And you know, I think we've talked about this on Just the Tip. Maybe we haven't. But there are certain courses. This week at the Honda is one where I would weight course history very low. Okay?
Yes. Yeah,
it's not really helping our case, but
I may go against course history this week.
Yeah, just because all the things we talked about with PGA National and the variance at PGA National, it's just so hard to predict things here because there are so many little variables. It could be you are one wedge shot into a green that you put too much spin on, and that thing catches a slope, and one revolution too many takes you from being on the fringe to rolling down into the water, which now costs you a shot or two, and now you miss the cut on the number. And that's the difference between you missing the cut or maybe getting in by a shot or two and having a top 20. Like that literally could be it at this place.
Does that mean that we can avoid having to do our cash lineup this week so we can just take a week off with the cash?
So all of this stalling in segment 4 has been so that we could avoid said cash lineup, because playing a 50-50 or double up this week at the Honda is to us a fool's errand because it is so wild. Now, you may also say tailing our cash picks would be a fool's errand because we've sucked lately. But next week, dang it, for Bay Hill, an elevated event with a stacked field, we're gonna bring it back, and it's gonna be freaking fantastic. You believe me?
I believe you. I'm glad we're getting to take a little bit of a week off, though. Hey, you know what? We've been tracking it. Just like I said, we've tracked it. And sometimes you kind of have to look back and take a little,
Yeah.
This is our look back week, DP. This is when we're assessing the data. We'll be back next week to provide winners. Okay.
We're 2-4 in the cash lineups cashing, which is not good at all. So, so we're going to step back. We're going to reevaluate. We'll be back next week. Next week, you've got the Arnold Palmer Invitational from Bay Hill, stacked event. So check us back on the Bettor Sports Network, the Tour Junkies Golf Show. Have a great week. See ya.
Oh!